Hey, it's Norm from Test.com, and once again, I am joined by our friend Jeremy Williams. Jeremy, the maker. You're a maker.
A maker. Yeah.
What wonders do you have to show us today?
This is the first project that I ever made. Yeah. I bought a pinball machine.
Yes, we talked about your pinball obsession.
I love pinball. And I always said I'd buy a Tron pinball machine if they ever made one. And sure enough, they did.
After Tron Legacy.
For Tron Legacy.
Yeah.
And so I bought it, and it's a great pinball machine. People like it. But
you say that not very enthusiastically.
Well, I mean, it's not an all-time classic in my mind, but it's fine. But the problem is nowadays pinball machines have gotten so expensive that they have to make cuts, you know. And so one of the cuts that they made was they couldn't procure the rights to the original Tron arcade machine for the miniature arcade machine that's in the pinball machine.
So in the Tron Legacy pinball machine,
yes,
everything is logoed and branded Tron Legacy.
For obvious reasons.
Right. And inside there is a miniature
arcade game
as just a piece of accessory.
It's what pinball people call a toy.
A toy, okay.
Yeah, so it's in there, you shoot it to activate certain things.
And it spins around? Or?
No. No, it does nothing. It just sits there. It has a light behind the screen that lights up the Tron Legacy logo.
And that did not sit well with you.
You know, I don't think it sat well with many people, but I did something about it. Well, me and a friend. And once again, I partnered up with a programmer. And we set about replacing that arcade machine. Now, the one that it came with was reminiscent of the shape of the original arcade game.
Yeah, I think it's a very unique,
it is.
Iconic shape for an arcade machine.
And it was never reused. I mean, that architecture for that cabinet is beautiful. I think it's one of the most beautiful arcade games of all time.
Trapezoidal.
Yes, and it has black lights in front of the control panel and beneath it that light up the control stick.
You can't pass that off.
And inside it, you've got these cool windows you're seeing through to the grid. And it's, you know, the game itself had 4 games in it.
Right.
It's a
randomly
beautiful arcade game. So for them to put that in there was an insult to the original game. So a friend of mine went ahead and said, he took this screen, and I'll show you the screen. It's actually this screen right here. This tiny little LCD screen. This is, and on the back of it, it basically has a computer. And the computer runs its own native language called 4DGL.
Okay.
And using that language, you can basically draw shapes on the screen.
Oh.
Really basic stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, this is way less powerful than an Arduino. This is not a powerful chip. But using that language, he recreated the Tron arcade game's attract mode.
He went down to that language.
Rectangles. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's an animation that runs on this screen, and this screen alone, this is everything that it requires is here. You apply power, and it runs it. He managed to fit it into 10K of RAM that's on here, using I think 500 bytes of memory in order to store his variables. But an insane job.
That's like a demo scene level.
He's a Game Boy programmer, so he sort of knows how to do that kind of thing. And then I took his screen and I put it into the original, into what came with the pinball.
So machine. This is the Faux arcade game.
Yeah, but I re-decaled it.
Yeah, okay.
So that it has the original game's decals.
Right. And that was just a laser print, like.
Yeah. It was nothing. So we took out the little decal, we put the screen in there, and people really liked it. But it wasn't the right shape. This is not the right dimensions or anything for the original game. So the main project that I did was I then took the screen out of that and I laser cut my own arcade cabinet.
And that's
this was the draft for what would become this. Right. So initially, I made a perfect replica of the original one just to see what laser cutting was. This is the very first thing I'd ever laser cut. And everything fit together, and I was ecstatic. But then I started tweaking the angles, and finally, I ended up with this, which is much more like the original arcade game.
Right, it's a little wider.
Yeah, and it had to fit into the pinball machine, so couldn't be terribly tall. But
so this still does go inside that Tron Legacy pinball machine.
Yeah. And inside, you can see this is the original. This mod actually ran an LCD screen. This is the OLED version. And this is the first OLED screen I ever saw. And
it's vibrant.
It's so beautiful because there's no backlight. And so when it's black, it's off. And when it's lit, it's just that pixel. It's beautiful. So, and then I also included UV blacklight LEDs beneath the controller.
So mimic that.
In front of this, when the lights are out, you can actually see it glowing behind this. And then inside there's a light behind, the back glass or whatever that's called, the panel in the back, so you can see into the grid.
And this is something that's just amazing. If you look at this OLED screen, that animation that your friend did is it's cycling animation, so you can't actually, it's not interactive,
right?
But it's pixel perfect.
What's
a
amazing
rendition of
doesn't it look that way? It's actually, this screen is actually only 128 by 128, whereas the original game was 500 by 300.
If you abstract that down,
he did an amazing job at this. Yeah,
which are rectangles.
Exactly, and really
you have a high score list and.
Yeah, and he actually implemented his own font, so you can actually edit the code and add your name to the high score list if you want.
Wow.
And the code's all out there, if you just download the code from my website, pinhacks.com. Or actually, I linked to his code. It's on his site. But yeah, it's all out there, and you can buy one of these screens. I think they're $55. And
so people can make their own.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously the code is free, and then as soon as I made this, I released the plans for free. Creative Commons, and so if you get together with some friends, because it's not cheap to do one, but if you want to do 10, get together with some friends and have it laser cut,
get the LED blacklight, and then
this is what the lighting looks like inside. This is the hardest part about the whole process, is soldering together these little LEDs and connecting it to this connector. You gotta just source all the parts for that, but it's worth it.
And then the pinball actually knocks into this.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's all for the love of both Tron and pinball.
You know who likes this? George Gomez.
Who is?
Who is the original designer of the original Tron arcade game. He saw this and he linked it to his Facebook, and then I caught wind of it, and then I met him at one of the pinball conventions, and he liked it so much, and I asked him to sign the back of mine. So this is now signed by the original maker of Tron.
Does this still live in your pinball machine? Or is
I sold the pinball machine.
Oh, okay.
For reasons we won't go into, but
Let's buy more pinball machines, obviously.
Yeah, but I held on to this.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Jeremy.
Yeah.
This is amazing. You got to get a closer look at exactly what's happening on here. And again, if you visit your website, pinhacks.com, you can find out more information about this project and where you can get the code and the designs to make your own. I'm Norm with Tested.com. We'll have more cool things, show and tell on the site. Thank you, Jeremy, once again. We'll see you next time.